Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to Power Up Your 2026 Advocacy, Community Development Advocacy Grants and Resources to Lead Change. My name is Neely Erickson and I'm the GAD with Illinois Realtors and the chair of your GAD advisory group. In my role, I'm supporting associations with their advocacy and community development work, and I'm a frequent user of NAR's Community Development Advocacy Grants and resources. I've used these grants to create placemaking projects like transforming vacant lots into playgrounds, park shelters, pollinator habitats, and to support data-driven housing studies that guide better local policy to support data-driven housing studies that guide better local policy. I'm joined by Josh Baverka, and we're glad to have you here to share an overview of NAR's 2026 Community Development Advocacy Grants and resources that are available to your association. And if you caught it, yes, there's a new name. Community Outreach has rebranded to Community Development Advocacy to better reflect how the program has grown and evolved. Associations today aren't just engaging with their communities, they are shaping local policy, driving housing solutions, and leading long-term community development efforts. The name better captures this broad impact, highlighting both the policy work happening on the ground and the advocacy role realtors play in strengthening communities.
And as Neely said, I'm Josh Faverka, and I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors and the Vice Chair of your GAD Advisory Group. And, we at NVAR, we use these grants and resources frequently for a lot of initiatives like partnerships with our local governments and regional coalitions. We've done a lot of housing symposiums that focus on smart growth and housing attainability, fair housing program partnerships, including our annual fair housing art contest that we run with Fairfax County and the local school districts. We've done placemaking, just doing a art installation at one of our supervisors' districts. And actually this year we hosted our first Northern Virginia Rural Housing Summit. And so these community development advocacy grants and resources are a very important piece of our association for enhancing advocacy partnerships, elevating our visibility as a leader and collaborator across the region, and advancing our positions on key local community development priorities around topics like planning and housing supply and more.
So, as Josh highlighted, these tools are powerful, and realtor associations across the country are leaders in working to influence politics and policy for the benefit of NAR and members and homeowners. And these grants elevate the role of realtors in being advocates in their community. In this webinar, you are going to hear from the Community Development Advocacy team about how you can strengthen your efforts with grants, technical assessments, and training webinar toolkits and many other resources.
So the informational portion of this webinar goes until 2:40 p.m. That's Eastern time. I know some folks are in other time zones. And it includes an overview of the smart growth, housing opportunity, fair housing, rural outreach, and placemaking grants, the reimbursement process, as well as a brief overview of related resources and the new grant database that is launching in 2026. But we encourage you to stay with us until 3 p.m. We're actually doing an interactive kind of virtual lightning round session where you can get live kind of real-time answers to your questions about the program and go into breakout rooms and discuss and brainstorm initiatives with the grant managers at NAR, as well as Neely and I and other association representatives on this call.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. First, a big thank you to Neely and Josh for those excellent introductions and literally grounding our conversation today in real examples of how these grants fuel stronger advocacy and community development initiatives. Josh and Neely, your leadership as vice chair and chair of the GAD Advisory Group and your commitment to helping associations use these resources effectively are truly appreciated. So we're thrilled, obviously, to have you both and all of you who took time today to join us. My name is Christine Wendell. I'm the Director of Community Outreach at NAR, and I'm excited. We're excited to walk you through today's session and share how these community development advocacy program resources and our full suite of grants can help turn your ideas into action. If you can go to the next, stay in this slide. Before we dive in, I'd like to ask the incredible team joining me today to introduce themselves. Hannah, Hugh, and Sophia, in that order, please.
Hi there, I'm Hannah Dannenfelser. I'm the Grants and Resources Manager on the team.
I'm Hugh Morris. I manage the Community Development and Growth Program.
Hi, I'm Sophia Suwaimi, a financial processor for this Community Development Advocacy Grant.
So thank you so much. We're grateful to have each of them here to share insights, answer questions, and help connect you with the tools you need. Just a few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded and the full recording will be posted to our website. After the session, you're going to receive a follow-up email with the link to that page where the recording will be housed, links to all the grant pages and application resources, a link to the success story database, a planning session, a request form, our grant database training videos, a PDF of today's slides. So you don't need to jot down URLs or take screenshots. We'll send everything straight to your inbox. And if you have questions, please put those in the Q&A and we'll answer them in real time or try to get to those in the end. If you can go to the next slide. So speaking of questions, as Josh mentioned, at the very end of the webinar, we'll host a fast, fun, lightning round breakout session with each of you. This is your chance to ask questions, share your initiative and project ideas, and brainstorm those initiatives, and then get real-time feedback from our team, along with Josh and Neely. So we do encourage you to stay on. This is consistently one of the most valuable parts of the session. If you go to the next slide. So what's the purpose of the Community Development Advocacy Program? If you can keep sliding through, Jacob, on each of these. So just to get to the information, sorry about the fly-in information. NAR CDA program empowers realtor associations to strengthen their communities through advocacy, partnerships, and on-the-ground initiatives, through grants, technical assistance, legislative analysis, state and local growth polling, and best practice storytelling, we call it. We support associations working to expand housing opportunities, advance fair housing, promote smart growth, and quite frankly, elevate community vitality. Our program bundles include 5 key resources that you see on screen. Grants up to $15,000 to support community development and fair housing initiatives, transforming neighborhoods assessments, land use initiative analysis, growth polling, and smart growth content highlighted and on common ground. This helps associations engage state and local leaders, influence policy, and establish realtors, quite frankly, as trusted partners in building thriving, inclusive communities. If you can go to the next slide. So let's start with a few key details on that first bucket we talked about. The grant resource program. All 5 grants, which are fair housing, housing opportunity, smart growth, placemaking, and rural outreach, they're available at a variety of levels. Level 1, all the grants are available up to $3,000 to support speakers, classes, training, stakeholder meetings, placemaking projects. Level 2, up to $7,500 for studies, stakeholder events, ordinance drafting, research, and level 3 up to $15,000. And this comes in smart growth and housing opportunity only for more comprehensive partnership-driven projects with broad community impact. So please note that level 1 and level 2 grants are approved administratively the following week, the week after you submit your application. And those level 3 grants, those are approved by committee review groups, and they may take a little longer, up to 3 weeks. Each grant includes a toolkit outlining eligible activities, requirements, examples, and resources. And just a few reminders, associations may apply for each grant at each level once per year. There's no skin in the game requirement. That financial commitment requirement that was 10% is waived under Right Tools right now. Applications open January 5th. of 2026 and close October 15th, or when funds are fully committed. And this is really important because over the past several years, we've reached budget capacity in May and June. So plan early, and applying early and planning early is important. So up next, each grant manager will walk through grant-specific details. And then after that, we're going to cover CDA resources, the new grant management database, and then the reimbursement process before we shift to our lightning round. So next slide, please. So I'll start with the Housing Opportunity Grant Program, which supports efforts to expand housing access, promote homeownership, and advance housing solutions. Level 1, that $3,000 level, typically supports realtor education on down payment assistance, loan programs, or policy stakeholder meetings, or guest speaker fees. Level 2, up to $7,500, supports broader policy forums with key stakeholders, housing assessment, studies, and even consumer-facing home buyer education, such as housing fairs. So here's an example of that level 2, where the Sacramento Association of Realtors, they've used this level 2 for the past several years to put together a community housing fair that helps residents begin their home buying journey with confidence and access to local resources. And then the final level is level 3, up to $15,000, which supports broader impact initiatives such as multi-month homebuyer education series or broader community housing study with multiple visioning sessions. So with that, it's my pleasure to pass the grant baton to Hannah Dannenfelser. She's going to walk us through fair housing, rural outreach, and placemaking.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. As Christine mentioned, I'm going to talk to you about the Fair Housing Grant, which is one of them that I manage here. Our Fair Housing Grant is meant to further the mission of fair housing, and it focuses on education and training regarding working with protected classes, as well as training regarding the history and context leading to the Fair Housing Act. So the level 1 is for up to $3,000 for targeted training towards your members. So can cover CE classes related to fair housing. So for example, it could fund the bias override class that NAR provides, which addresses understanding the science behind bias and addressing discrimination in housing throughout the process for realtors. So it could also, the level 1 is also frequently used for book clubs. A popular book that it's used for is the Color of Law book. The level 2 is getting towards larger community-based initiatives. Frequently, the level 2 is used for fair housing-based conferences. Maybe this is where you bring in your local fair housing center, invite in your home builders, have local partners that are involved in the level 2. With this is up to $7,500. It could also be used for things like Know Your Rights flyers or an exhibit that spotlights the history leading to the Fair Housing Act. There's some examples of success stories on the side there. You'll have access to this PowerPoint with links. An example, a conference where we had numerous associations team up for a high impact conference out in California, as well as a trivia night example that was an educational focused on better understanding the laws and regulations around fair housing in that state. Next slide. These are rural outreach grants. So these are targeted for serving communities that are rural in nature with populations of 30,000 or less. And it's getting specifically at issues that are specifically rural in nature. So think broadband access, well and septic, open space preservation. These are commonly starting to be used for climate related issues in particular. That's something I'm seeing. These were particularly popular in 2025 for climate related issues. So the level 1 is, again, targeted training towards your members. This can be for CE classes, very commonly used for well and septic classes. We also had a state that used it for a specific water related transaction issues that were unique to their state, and they developed a class and put that on. It can be used for instructor fees, marketing costs. The level 2 is getting at broader based community oriented initiatives. We've seen it used for guidebooks. It could be used for initiatives in local communities, the policy initiatives. It can be for research, studies, and reports. You can see an example there. The Greater Piedmont Association has a recurring field trip they do every year that is focused on going actually on site to seeing hopping on a bus and on site to see various well and septic actual sites where you can see very different examples of the actual system. So the Rural Outreach Grant, I do want to just highlight this year we developed a brand new toolkit for this grant that didn't exist before. So it has success, like our other toolkits, it has a summary of the types of things the grant can be used for, as well as success stories, examples, tips, and resources. So in particular, keep an eye out for that toolkit for the Rural Outreach Grant. Next slide. Our placemaking grants, these are exciting. These are the one grant in our department that actually physically builds something. This is for taking vacant or underutilized sites and creating new outdoor public spaces and destinations that are gathering places, advancing that goal within smart growth of placemaking, of bringing people together and bringing people to a place of gathering. So think dog parks, playgrounds, community gardens. The level one is up to $3,000, which is targeted towards pop-up temporary projects. These are pilot projects specifically that you are using the grant to test out the viability of a site for a potential future project. This was a really cool example that MyBor had these public art pieces that they tested placing them around the community of going on a bear hunt initiative, tested placing around the community for where they would have permanent public art fixtures. Next slide, thank you. This was a great example, the Morgan County Association. This was an alley activation. They took a kind of a rundown alley, worked with their downtown redevelopment authority to transform it and embed an alleyway into a really vibrant public space with public art. Next slide. This is our Spaces to Places blog where you can read examples of placemaking success stories across the country in the voice of the association. A few things I do want to highlight with this placemaking grant. For one, it funds projects that have a total budget of $500,000 or less. So think of the initiatives in your community that are quicker, lighter, cheaper. They must be on public land. These are initiatives in your community that are collaborations with your local government. They are partnerships, and they are where your association is taking a true leadership role in a local project. And certainly collaborations are welcome, but we do want to see that your association has a true leadership role and is a true partner. This is where certainly your funds can come in to underwrite the expenses. Think, maybe a slide on a playground or lighting fixtures in an alleyway. But also we want to see that your realtors are showing up as your members are active participants. If there's a ribbon cutting, these are great ways to advance smart growth and placemaking principles in your community, as well as gain visibility and relationship building in your community with local leaders and get some great media as well is certainly the hope. And I'm going to pass it to Hugh for the smart growth grants.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. And so, yes, on to the Smart Growth Grants, the last of our 5. And so the Smart Growth Grants are there really to help your association work towards the changes in public policy that will encourage development that reflects the smart growth principles, which are really those that are developments that are mixed land uses, exhibit the ability to walk around them or bike, transit if there's enough density, preservation of green spaces, all of this to sort of create livable communities, if you will. So that's the intent of the smart growth grants, just creation of that public policy, implementation of it, and so forth. So the grant levels for the smart growth grant, the level 1 there is again used for education. And there are 2 principal ways associations use that. One is to host the planning and zoning course offered by the Center for Realtor Development. So you can use the grant to underwrite any costs associated with hosting that. Or you can bring in, for instance, bring in live or bring in by Zoom, somebody who might be a national expert on an issue that your community is struggling with or entertaining. So for instance, there's a concept of transit-oriented development where you put higher density buildings around transit hubs and stations. And so if you wanted to hear sort of what the state-of-the-art practice is around transit-oriented development, you could Zoom in a national expert on that, and the members and anyone else you wanted in the room, local elected officials, city planners, other community leaders, you can all learn from that person. And then what happens is that ends up being then a great springboard to your conversations as you go forward and sort of discuss this, that all of you have heard the same information, and on you go. And then level two is sort of really sort of starting to get your hands dirty, if you will, with you can use the funds to conduct a study, develop new policies or ordinances or legislation. We've had the Memphis Association now many years ago used the funds to develop a complete streets policy, which the mayor then signed. You can have it support a conference or a forum around sort of smart growth issues, if you will. And then level three, which, as Christine mentioned, it sort of undergoes a more extensive review by a panel of members, but that's there for some, just bigger, longer term efforts, if you will, that involve some element of community input. So whether that's like a visioning session where community members come and put yellow stickies on maps, if you've been to one of those, that's the kind of thing we're sort of looking to support with the level threes. And then, like the other grants, we have a toolkit, and with just sort of our prime examples of success stories in five categories of project types, and also success stories. And I'm just going to point out the one at the bottom, which is from Myrtle Beach. And this is just to underscore that land use change takes a lot of time to actually implement. And so in Myrtle Beach, they had a walkability expert come and examine the issues that they're experiencing with pedestrian traffic right around the beach area. This expert came, observed, they walked around together, elected officials, and he left town with and gave them sort of a 10 top things they could do to sort of enhance the walkability. And 5 years later, we caught wind they are still working on implementing all of those, but it's having an impact, a positive impact. And so those sorts of things, we have several stories like that where just 5 years later, 6 years later, the effort is still sort of being implemented. So next slide, please. So beyond all the grants, we have several other resources, and I'm just going to go through them real quickly, left to right here. So the Transforming Neighborhoods resource is one where we do it in collaboration with the Counselors of Real Estate and their consulting core team. The Counselors of Real Estate is an NAR affiliate. And the idea here is we select four local associations. This is done by application. The application period is open now through February 6th. And the idea is that it presents a real estate challenge to five counselors who will come and take up and come to your community for a period of a week, study the problem, talk to a lot of people, 60 people, different folks who have different interests in this issue and how it's resolved, and then leave with their recommendations in hand for the community to implement as they see fit. And again, we notice that this takes several years to sort of really show meaningful impact often. The land use initiative, oh, nope. Thank you. The land use initiative, this is a great resource that predates all the other resources you've been hearing about. We've been working with the law firm of Robinson and Cole in Boston. They can do an analysis of proposed, introduced land use related ordinances in your community. And if you would like to know sort of the pros and cons of that ordinance and receive some talking points about it and how it might impact the real estate industry, you can use our land use initiative for that. It takes a couple of weeks for them to do a full review, so get it in as early as possible. You will see that we have done a webinar on that, and you can find that. You'll be getting a link to that webinar and the Transforming Neighborhoods webinar as well after this. The state and local growth polling program, this is one of my favorites. It's where NAR pays the full cost, and in fact, we pay the full cost of the land use initiative and the Transforming Neighborhoods. The growth polling program is fabulous. It's where we use NAR's, one of our polling colleagues, and this is a poll that is not political in nature at all. It's meant to be a poll of community members and their interests and thoughts about growth-related issues. So you all want to use it. It's done by application. We do about 10 or 12 a year. It takes about 2 months start to finish. And I can help you get that going starting early in January if you like. And then lastly, on Common Ground magazine, which went from print version to digital version earlier this year for the first time, and we are sort of pushing this out. And many of you may have received notices about the availability of that for the fall edition and the digital distribution toolkit, which is there to provide graphics and images, social media assets for you to push that magazine out and its content to your members and local elected officials. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we want to make an important announcement, especially if you have been using our grants and resources in the past, that in 2026, our 5 grant applications will be using a new grant database with the Realtor Party Grant Application Portal. And note that the non-grant resources in our department will use existing processes, so this applies to our 5 grant programs: the Fair Housing Grant, Smart Growth Grant, Rural Outreach Grant, Placemaking Grant, and Housing Opportunity Grant. Stay tuned for training videos that will be coming soon for key steps of using the grant database, and a link to where the videos will be housed is going to be published in the debrief email you receive after the webinar. The database is a single streamlined entry point for managing 3 core advocacy programs. So this also applies for issue mobilization, independent expenditures, and then with us, community development advocacy grants, to make it faster, clearer, easier to apply, and then track and report on your advocacy work. Slide, please. Couple highlights. There's going to be one login, one dashboard where you can start applications, view the status, manage the reimbursements, and complete reporting all in one place. Again, stay tuned for the training videos. And as always, the grant application links will be available on the corresponding grant pages so you can get to this database directly. It'll have guided workflows with smart prompts, required fields, and built-in eligibility tips to reduce back and forth and help submit with confidence. It'll have real-time tracking so you can instantly see where your request stands in the review process and what's next. And again, multiple programs in one place, also where you can apply for issues mobilization and independent expenditures program. So I'm going to pass it to Sophia for our reimbursement process.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, as Anna mentioned before, we will move to a new system. So you will now submit your reimbursement documents through our online portal instead of emailing them like this year and previous year. This is how the portal looks like. So you can have the visual. It's the same as the one when you submit for your grant applications. We will again share the link in your approval notification email here. You just need to go to the funding award requirements tab when you can submit all your reimbursement. Next slide, please. This is how our reimbursement form looks like. It's the same format we have used for the past years. So here you will need to declare any income or revenue from other sources and put all the expenses incurred for your event or project. And please keep in mind that for this grant program, reimbursement covers only for net expenses and non-net initiative with net revenue. Okay, next slide. Next, we have an important section for your claims. The following are eligible users of the grant funds. First, we have an instructor and consultant fee that includes their incidental costs such as hotel, taxi, and meals. Second, we have a venue rental, including items like chairs or tables that are needed for your event. Refreshment or food, this one is common. Marketing materials or any event or educator related printed materials. And lastly, building materials, but this applies only to the placemaking grant. Next, we have here the expenses that are not eligible for the reimbursement. First, association staff time and hours cannot be claimed. General operating expenses for your association. Then this is a common item that association always cash prizes, or purchase of gift. We are sorry they are not allowed. Next, in-house association, classroom rental fee. Also, we do not cover staff travel costs for attending the events. This includes the registration fee as well. And finally, annual subscription fee for videos conferencing services, as well as devices like iPads or Alexa that are not eligible. So please keep this guideline in mind as you prepare for your submission. Thank you. Let's back to Hannah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sophia. A few frequently asked questions, just want to highlight. For one, that how many grants can your association receive in a year? You're eligible for one grant per funding level per calendar year. As we mentioned earlier, the right tools right now for 2026 funding, the skin in the game requirement is waived. And we have the maximum funding amounts listed right there. Can we go to the next slide, Jacob? Thank you. I'm going to highlight a few things as well. Criteria. What criteria are used to evaluate the grant applications? As the grant managers, we're reviewing your applications to assure that the initiative is in alignment with the purpose of the grant and that there's a significant level of commitment for your association in terms of your active engagement in the initiative. You can take a look at the grant web pages where we outline the grant goals as well as frequently asked questions, which we highly recommend. Those are important to read on the grant web pages that overview do's and don'ts of things like do's and don'ts of what can be covered. We are partnering with another realtor association for an activity. Can we both apply for a grant? The answer is yes, absolutely. Up to 4 associations can apply for a grant for a shared initiative. If you are collaborating on a shared initiative, it is incredibly important that you are coordinating on the reimbursement process in particular, so that each association, as you submit for your reimbursements, each association is applying for different expenses. We will not double reimburse for the same expense with each association. So you must coordinate and be on top of making sure your receipts are delegated out appropriately. And then, of course, as always, make sure to note that NAR has a territorial jurisdiction policy, so you'll need to stay in touch with associations regarding that. I tend to recommend if you have an initiative where you're going to have 3 or 4 grants apply, might want to call your grant manager in advance to just discuss it to make sure they can go over any logistics or details to cover. If my association is approved for a grant, when will we receive the funding? So a key is that the funds are dispersed through a reimbursement process. You will be approved for your initiative based on the scope of the grant with your application. After your initiative is completed, within 90 days, you will submit your evaluation form and your reimbursement materials, and then it will be processed and reviewed by Sophia, and then the funds will be reimbursed based on the receipts that you have submitted. Highlighting, you've seen this in a number of the slides, but reimbursements will cover the net expenses and will not cover initiatives with net revenue. If you have profited from the initiative, we will not be reimbursing to provide a profit to your association. Happy to, if you have questions on that, we can clarify. Next slide. Highlighting that we in 2026 are going to have new guidelines around picture submissions with your evaluation forms, especially if you are one of our regular users. Please take note of this. We're really excited to have some new guidelines. They'll be included in your approval notifications that are going to help us better highlight initiatives, as well as ensuring proper photo credit and legal compliance. These guidelines will cover things like copyright and trademark compliance to protect the association from risk. It will have some content recommendations in terms of providing us with engaging content and a reference to professional services that may be able to be covered by your grant funds. So it's likely that your grant funds could cover, for example, a professional photographer to help really elevate and tell the story of your grant initiative. This is something that we really, as at NAR, we really want the opportunity to really visually highlight the great success you've had with your initiatives. So these pictures, getting high quality pictures and again compliant pictures that are mitigating risk for the association is going to be something we really are going to feel we're something really want to prioritize in 2026. So as you go into planning your initiatives, please think a lot about how you want to visually represent each of your initiatives with pictures. Okay, next. Many of you have already taken advantage of these, so this is a refresher because these are very popular. Our community development advocacy planning sessions. If you haven't had one before, highly encourage you to schedule one. These are strategy planning sessions for your association to meet with the community development advocacy team to discuss your community development goals, opportunities, or challenges, and get lifetime feedback on strategies for best leveraging the grants and resources in the community development advocacy department. They're available on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and there is a sign up genius on our community development advocacy on the Realtor Party website in the community development advocacy section that you can just go ahead and sign up, meet with me, Christine, and Hugh. And this is where not only can you come to us with your ideas, but if you're interested in getting feedback and ideas on initiatives we've been seeing in other associations, that's the kind of support that we can provide you as well. So these are high impact sessions that we get a lot of really positive feedback from our associations and highly encourage you to register for once you've gone through this webinar and you've reviewed the grant pages. Next. An incredibly important tool that we have available to you is our success stories. So stay attentive to these regularly published blog posts that share initiative successes across the country that inspire ideas for high impact community development and policy initiatives in your community or region. The success story database is searchable by keyword and by state, so you can search by grant type or subject area and see other ways that associations are strengthening the real estate industry and strengthening community initiatives in their community. Again, reference to previously highlighting that we also have the Spaces to Places blog, which is specifically focused on our placemaking success stories. But this success story database covers the gamut. Again, you'll have access to this PowerPoint, our contact information, me, Hugh, Sophia, Christine. Please feel free to reach out to us at any time via phone or email. We are always happy to take your questions. Examples of webinars and learning labs, interactive learning labs that we held in our department in 2025. So examples of things that you might see in the future. This is where we've had our Fair and Attainable Housing Ideas Forum, our Smart Growth Learning Lab. We had a rural outreach webinar this year. All of these recordings are available, so you can still, even if you missed them in 2025, you can go back and still get the benefit of them. Those links are going to be in the debrief email that you're receiving with all of the recordings. But stay tuned because we have more of these coming in 2026. So stay tuned to your Realtor Party News, your Gadfly, the advocacy social media, where announcements of webinars and workshops will be coming soon.